Hello again, you beautiful people. You crazed lovies. How are you doing today? How are things going, man? How is life? I am doing fantabulous. Absolutely perfection. All because I got to enjoy watching one of my favorite Goyim Rounders, one of my favorite Kangs, go over some marriage statistics last night. So Ben Shapiro decided to present an argument for marriage, and he tried. I mean, it was a very good try, obviously, very well researched. It falls completely short, just, we'll go into it, but there is no way in heck is that still an argument for marriage. But let's talk about what Mr. Shapiro said, basically. Mr. Shapiro looked at the marriage statistics, and then he started carving away groups, right? He carves away remarriages. Boom. He carves away liberal women. Boom. He carves away non-educated liberal women. And after manipulating the statistics to such an extent, after doing everything in his power to set the odds in his favor for his argument, the figure he comes up with for marriage and divorce is 25% still end in divorce. So at the very best, assuming you can find a college-educated, religious, conservative woman, you're looking at a 25% success rate. Wow. So if you edit the statistics, if you bend everything to your best, you only have a 25% chance of being turned into a government slave, of being forced to work against your will, of no longer having any agency or access to your children. That's your argument? Really, Mr. Shapiro? You think that's somehow compelling? That's proper? That's going to work? I mean, really? So, again, let's undo a lot of his manipulation then. Let's just look at the broad statistics. So, if we just look at current day marriages, something like 60% of them end in divorce. This doesn't include remarriages, so we'll be nice. We'll not completely bend it my way. We'll just look at the average. First-time marriages, 60%. And then, let's just take a derivative of the divorce percent over time and see that realistically, 80% of the marriages that are currently happening will end in divorce. So a 20% success rate. That's the realistic numbers for your average guy. Let's pretend for a second we're not talking about Ben Shapiro and his ability to date either. Let's say we're talking about an average, 3 out of 5, 2 out of 5, like me over here. So realistically, am I going to be able to pull a conservative college-educated woman to be able to enjoy that 25% divorce rate? Am I going to be able to realistically get that? Probably not. And of the college-educated conservative women, that rare butterfly that exists, am I going to be able to keep that? That just doesn't seem very strong, does it? No, it doesn't seem like that's realistic. It just, if I told you that, for instance, since it's mostly a financial debate, right? At the end of the day, marriage is basically finances. Whether or not you want to admit that, that's the reality of the situation. So let's say I had 4 different investments you could make, right? 3 of them are going to, not reduce your money. Maybe they'll give you 4% a year, right? They'll give you the Robin Hood rate. One of them, though, is going to take everything, including your family, and then leave you with nothing. Are you going to take that risk? I don't think anyone in the world. Like, even if, let's say, the ROI on all the 3 investments that work is double compared to, the one that's going to leave you destitute, I don't think any intelligent financial analysis is going to say, oh yeah, take that risk. Even if you manipulate the statistics to the point where it seems like, okay, it's not mathematically that bad, realistically, no one's going to take that offer. Even under Ben Shapiro's best estimates, he says, this is not going to work, basically. It's untenable. And that's under the best statistics possible that he tries to find. That's still untenable amounts of risk. You wouldn't take that risk with your finances. If you have any sort of money and you have any sort of sense, you're not going to take that risk. Why is he expecting the average person to take this sort of risk? He defines it that he sees marriage differently than the rest of the world. for him, marriage is some sacred institution that's till death do us part, and that's all great, but that's not the reality for almost anyone else in the world. At the end of the day, he admits that if he saw marriage the way most people see marriage, he wouldn't take it. So at the end of the day, he admits, really, it's only specifically worth it if you're rich enough to be able to shake off divorce and you can attain a college-educated, conservative virgin woman, basically. It's basically what he's saying, right? And if you can bend all these factors into your will, and you're not going to be financially destitute after she takes everything from you, at best you're gambling then with money that you already have extra of and access to your children, right? So, are you willing to even risk having access to your children in Ben Shapiro's case? The argument still isn't very good. It's still not something you really want to do. Yeah, if you really, really want children, that's the way you should go. Everyone already knew that. Everyone already knows how terrible the statistics are, though. Trying to make this argument, it just doesn't make sense. His proposals don't really make sense. He's getting married because, one, he was born rich enough to, and, his shabib organized a marriage for him, right? For the average guy, you're looking at, assuming the divorce statistics continue to go up, assuming they, if you extend out the deviation and continue forward at this pace, you're looking at 80% chance of failure. If you're looking at dealing with a woman that's been married before, you're looking at, I don't even know, I'd have to redo the statistics and look up what divorce rates is for people that also get remarried. But you're not looking good. It's worse for the remarriers, obviously. At the end of the day, why would you do this? Why? You're the one, as a man, you're the one that chases after this. You're the one that goes after this sort of scenario. You're the one that pursues this. If you're the man in this scenario, you control the access to relationships, why would you ever even consider it? The answer is you shouldn't. The answer is, realistically, in the modern era, you just simply should not consider marriage. You shouldn't consider any sort of long-term partnership. You shouldn't consider even getting together with a woman. Period. You're looking at an 80% failure rate over the course of your life. And laws can change, and guess what? They're going to change probably against you. Things are probably going to get worse from this point forward, realistically speaking, for the laws. The men's rights movement and all of those cringe lords, through all of their campaigning, things only got worse. You as a man, until this society crashes, until the standard unit of the family is gone completely, things are not going to get better for you. So, you have to let things break apart, and you have to let things die. You have to let these Judeo-Christian values die. You have to let Ben Shapiro's 401k die before there's any hope of anything good coming out of this. So, at the end of the day, don't listen to people that don't have your best interest at heart. Ben Shapiro does not have your best interest at heart. He knows that when he looks at the general statistics, he sees that marriage is untenable for men. He knows that realistically 90% of the people he's giving this advice to, closer to 99% probably, are not going to be able to use it. They're going to take it, get married, and then suffer from it. And he's willing to do that so he can increase his 401k. He doesn't have your best interest at heart. At his core, he probably hates you, just like Matt Walsh, just like all the others, and he still doesn't have an argument that makes any sense. He's trying to manipulate numbers, and even then, he can't make them look decent. Let me put this into perspective what a realistic risk percentage for marriage should look like. It should look like 5%. You should be able to say, yeah, 1 out of 20 people accidentally suffers this horrible fate, and, you could die realistically long before it happens. At that point, yes, marriage seems to be a much better alternative. But that's not realistic. That's not what's going to happen. So, until we have 5% success rate on it, there's no way you should be touching it, and that's pretty much the standard goal. So, either the laws are going to have to drastically change, and then time is going to have to pass, and generations are going to have to pass, because if you're alive right now as a man, you should not be getting married, because the laws could always revert in your lifetime, just period. Maybe towards the end of it, maybe heading to the third world and dying before, this sort of global homo plague catches the third world is an option. Maybe, but, if you've got a lot of life to live, if you've got 35 years, 45 years or something, like Mr. Cringe over here does, 70, 80, 45, 55 maybe, even if I'm really lucky, that's 90. Maybe then you can go for it, but realistically, you shouldn't bother. As someone that isn't trying to grift off you, I can tell you, don't do things that are going to cost you in the end. Marriage is likely going to cost you. The ROI isn't worth it. That's all. Mathematically, don't do it. There is no argument.